King James, this black man right here, understood who he was and who his people were. He also knew who the enemies of his people were. Predominantly the Roman Catholic Church had a problem, and under secret societies would look to destroy us in the future. So he had to put some scholars together to protect us, to give us some beacon of light in the future when the Most High would begin to awaken our people.
3, 2, 1. What's up, y'all? This is Vocab with my good friend, Eddie DALCOUR. If you have not watched the first video in this series, put this on pause. Go watch the first one. We're going to put the information for the other video in the link description, as well as I'll put a little card so you can click on the link right now. And then I'll also put it at the end of the video in case you did not heed my instructions and you watched this one out of order. That's okay. So, the first video, we laid the stage for some of the issues of King James onlyism, sometimes called KJV only position. And you had a satirical creed. A satirical creed of the KJV only position.
Yes.
Could you, to quickly review our last video, would you be willing to say it to the camera? This is, are you down to do that? This is a satirical creed of the KJV only position, ladies and gentlemen. Are you up for it?
Yeah.
Eddie DALCOUR, break it down. Tell us about King James only position.
The King James only position. Now, how I'm going to describe it is how a lot of them would actually
but there's a little satire in here.
Yeah, there might be. King James only. The King James position is the only valid, viable biblical translation, right? It's the infallible, inerrant biblical translation. The architects of the King James Version were biblically inspired, God-inspired, inerrant. They cannot err. It's free from error. Or the TR, the Textus Receptus, upon which the KJV was translated, that may be the infallible Greek text. Even though some would assert there may be errors in the KJV, but not in the TR, that was inspired like the New Testament was inspired. And this basically causes, as we've seen, so much division in a real sense. It causes so much confusion as we're going to hear this guy. And people are not critical thinkers.
So now you stop doing the fake creed. Now I'm doing the real. Now you're talking as Eddie DALCOUR.
It was too painful to really embrace the fake creed. But that is the creed of the KJV.
Right.
Infallibility, inerrancy, free from error, inspired. You'll hear these kind of, and then their attack on modern translations would be simply every. Now, it's interesting, after watching him...
Rakah from GOCC. We're about to play him. If you're familiar with Black Hebrew Israelism, you know he's the leader of one of the largest One West camps out, and he's a big KJV-only advocate, and he does not know what he's talking about, as evidenced by this video, as well as the shellacking that Dr. James White gave him in a debate. And, yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, great book James White has. It's still a great book, The King James Only Controversy. You have it somewhere?
I don't know. I'll just look for it, but go ahead.
It's probably one of the finest works I've ever seen on this issue. But after watching this guy, it seems like he thinks all the modern translations are comprised of one, the NIV. I don't know if he's aware of other... There's other modern translations.
He keeps on...
I'm not sure if he's aware of that.
He just talks about the NIV. That's kind of their whipping boy. Whenever I quote something, they always like, oh, he got the NIV. And usually I have the ESV. Sometimes I'll have something else. But a lot of times I have the ESV. I'm like, there's other things besides the NIV, guys.
The New Century or something?
Yeah, no, I don't. Not really so much.
Yeah. So, I mean, after hearing 10 minutes of this guy, he does not know what he's talking about. And unfortunately, the people who follow and embrace what he's saying they just have a very low grade of research. And it seems there's no sign of critical thinking life in them.
Well, let's play some of this. You'll be able to see the video. This is from a video called The Truth Concerning King James. We're going to watch some of it right now, and then we'll critique it. All right, here it goes.
He had our original sacred texts, which were protected under him at this time, translated into the language that will be given to us by our oppressors. That was an act of the Most High. The fact can and will be proven today that King James epistle, the the dedication he had within his record, which is contained in the front of the Bible, it tells us his purpose, and we're going to read that today. That King James actually put in the book, the beginning of the book, his purpose for bringing all the scholars together to translate the greatest record on earth. See? So why he didn't pen or touch the Bible itself from Genesis to Revelations, he actually wrote and penned himself. The reason he got all these authorities and translators together. He tell us why. And see, because of this, the Vatican said, well, we can no longer uphold the King James Version. We must now switch it off and give people the NIV. Because the NIV and the New Bibles took King James monologue out of the book of his purpose for translating the book.
right, so
We must give it all to the NIV.
So the clip just stopped. Now,
Unbelievable. There's so many things to comment on. The Catholic Church gave it up to the NIV.
the Vatican will no longer be down with the KJV, Rakas says, and so now they're going to switch over to the NIV.
That is just amazingly ignorant, not a little ignorant, just amazingly ignorant. Listening to that, it's like he's never read anything. I don't know where he got this stuff from. Certainly even the Catholic Church, they don't even use the NIV.
No, they don't. Can you talk to the audience real quick? I'm going to go grab a couple Catholic translations and show people what the Catholics actually use.
Okay.
So explain what else was wrong with that clip real quick. Give me a second.
Okay.
I'll walk in front of the camera. I'm professional.
Go ahead.
It's all you. Go ahead.
It was quite painful watching this guy speak on that particular issue. He talks about the translators or the beginning pages of the KJV. I would challenge anyone to read what the translators actually said in the preface of the 1611, and they'll see that the translators were not KJV only. They would rebuke this guy.
Yeah.
The translators would rebuke this guy for being so ignorant. They'll say, please, your ignorance is making my head hurt. Stop, you're embarrassing yourself.
So here's the New American Bible. This is one of the Roman Catholic translations of the Bible. Notice It's not the NIV, but it is from the Catholic Book Publishing Company. It includes the Apocrypha in it.
Okay.
Here's another one, the Jerusalem Bible. It's another common Roman Catholic translation. It also has the Apocrypha as well. Again, neither of these are the NIV, and those are two of the common Roman Catholic translations they use. It's not the NIV was never used by Rome, which he says is the Vatican, so they would never disavow it or do something else. So it doesn't make any sense.
No, and I was just reading a segment from this is in the actual preface of the KJV entitled "The Translators to the Reader." I'm not going to read it all. Following Augustine, that a variety of translations is profitable for finding out the sense of the scriptures.
So this is from the preface of the KJV.
Of the actual translators. So diversity of signification and sense in the margin where the text is not so clear must
needs do good. Yea is necessary, as we are persuaded.
So he's saying that there's places that, we want to get the sense of Scripture, but some places we don't know, or some places that we come in contact because of variance, we're going to put in the margins.
Right.
Now keep in mind, there was over 8,000 margins in the 1611. How many are there today in the King James Version? 0. They don't put marginal notes. They don't put any In fact, most of the King James only people don't even use a 1611 King James Bible.
Right, yeah.
They did the 1689 edition.
Translating from one language to another is not a code. Meaning it's not as if you have one word that equals exactly the other word and then you just put them there. Sometimes the word in the mother language to the receptor language may take several words to get the correct sense of the initial word. So you may have 3 or 4 words to properly give a person the sense of the original word, or vice versa. Not only that, you could have one doing the duty of 3 or 4 words in the original. Not only that, but sometimes there's more than one word that would give you the full sense, because words are used differently in different languages at different times. Right. And so that's helpful to understand as well. And that's another reason why good, reliable translations can be helpful, because you can get fuller senses of it a lot of times.
The fact of the matter is that many words in the KJV era, we don't use them.
Like, for
They're
example,
obsolete.
sackbutt.
Sackbutt, kettle, yeah, sackbutt.
That's my favorite one, is sackbutt.
No, yeah, or even
Most
words.
people don't say pisseth anymore.
No, and most people put a J in Jesus.
Yeah, the original 1611 though has what?
No J's.
Right.
They weren't invented, or they weren't utilized yet.
Right, and it was just, that's where the English language was at that time.
And really, that's the reason behind the 1769 Blaney edition.
What's that?
The 1769 Blaney edition became the standard for the main King James versions, because in his edition, he actually edited, he revised the editions before him. And basically, he just edited and expurgated a couple things and fixed some things. The fact of the matter, there's about 75,000 minor details in his edition that is different from the 1611.
Now, a Hebrew Israelite conspiracy theorist would probably say, and that's where the modern corruption that sometimes you'll see in the KJV comes up, because we're going to see Rakar later on say that some things in the KJV have been tinkered with, but it's after King James himself. And so anything they don't agree with, they kind of slough off as it happened by these later revisers, even to the KJV. Now, a lot of Hebrew Israelites, not all Hebrew Israelites say that, by the way. Some say, no, the KJV is good as it is. They don't even do all that. But there's places he doesn't like the KJV, such as Easter, which we might get into. And he says that's because of later things, because the later translators try to get everybody to worship false gods. But let's watch some more of this.
Okay.
And you would never guess who's the publishers of the new NIV, the same publishers of the Luciferian Bible and the Satanic Bible. Yes, same publishers. Now, getting back on course here. Before we bring forth this information, we would first like to prove to you all, you brothers and sisters that are viewing this, that King James had nothing to do with any mistranslation of the Bible over time. This information can be found in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. And when you go to this definition for Bible, you will also see that the definition is broken down into subdivisions. One of the subdivisions is King James Version. When you read this definition, it explains the following. Read that out of the Zondervan.
It says, in the course of time,
slight alterations were made,
especially in spelling, to conform to changing usage. But these were all done by piecemeal, or done piecemeal by private enterprise.
So that's telling us that the Zondervan Dictionary admits that there have been slight changes to the Bible, not by King James, not by those he authorized to translate the book. All right? But instead by private enterprise. Now, who in control of private enterprise in publishing today? Pagans, the Jewish Khazars, these atheists, these people who are behind publishing all literature.
Jewish who?
Khazars. Oh. You want to stop there?
Yeah.
All right, so we just heard some of that, and if you watched the last video, you remember we read a little bit from the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, because he's going to read a lot into it from that little thing, specifically about the phrase private enterprise. So do you see what he's saying so far? Let me grab it.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so many things to say about it. He's basing what he's doing. He's reading into the actual comment by Zondervan here. He's actually reading into, and it's interesting though, I can't get it out of my mind, private enterprise.
The private enterprise, he reads everything into that. Check this out. So who prints the NIV? It's Zondervan, right?
Zondervan.
Okay. So Zondervan's parent company is HarperCollins.
Right.
HarperCollins publishes the Satanic Bible, as he mentioned. Mm-hmm. My understanding is that's true enough, okay? But that association is erroneous for a lot of reasons. But not only that, let's just stop everybody and ask again, who publishes the NIV? Say it one more time.
Zondervan.
Who publishes this Bible dictionary he was using?
Yeah, exactly. Same publisher.
Zondervan. Bruh. Inconsistency. Straight up, so inconsistent.
Yeah.
I hope everyone understands the significance of what just happened there. Rakal, you got owned, bro. All right. So let's watch a little bit of this, and I'm going to let you commentary on the private enterprise part.
So, of course, they would switch certain things to actually promote their paganism within our record. So the onus is on us to throw out the things they changed for enterprise. Now, a private enterprise is basically defined as a business or a system controlled, usually publishers, who profit from the literature. So instead of government or agencies, we know that the biggest culprits that's behind private enterprise is the synagogue of Satan today, who are your modern day publishers. So they were behind changing some of the things after King James was killed. See? And they always have a political agenda and a spiritual agenda also into doing what? Converting the masses into paganism. All right?
Want to stop there, comment?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so you're seeing a lot of interesting imagery that they're using in this video. But again, we want to point out again that he's saying the Satanic Bible is published by the same company printed that does the NIV, which here's the NIV, here's the archaeological edition. Really good Bible, study Bible, by the way. And here's the Satanic Bible. So this is Avon Books, which is an imprint of HarperCollins, and Zondervan is owned by HarperCollins as well. But to prove his point, he's reading out of the Zondervan, also an imprint of HarperCollins Bible Dictionary. So I want to reiterate that. So what's he basically saying here? Have you picked up on the conspiracy theory, what he's trying to say here, Eddie?
Yeah, he's trying to say the publisher or everyone behind this conspiracy are Jewish.
Fake Jews. They call them
Fake
Khazars.
Jews.
They believe
Right.
they're children of converts. So they're not real Jews, but they're so-called Jews.
The truth concerning the KJV. And then it's interesting, he puts a picture of Constantine and the Pope as if they're somewhat one and the same, all part of this elaborate conspiracy.
Right.
It's just amazing. He's putting so much stock on secondary information.
Mm-hmm.
If he wanted truth, if he was interested in truth, of course he would go to the sources. He would not rely on secondhand information. He would not rely on these wild assertions.
He always likes to say, Racal likes to say this, Eddie, a lot. He'll say, according to my research or according to our research, is a common phrase he uses when he's speaking directly to his followers. He does it that way as if it's unique. And sometimes in this video, he actually says, which none of you have heard until this video. He even said that in this video.
And that's a commonality with these guys because they discovered the new truth that nobody else historically has ever discovered except someone else who's asserting this.
Yeah, because they're all operating off secondary sources.
Scholars now know, research now shows, and that should be a red flag for anyone who wants truth, who is interested in truth.
All right, let's watch some more of this video by the GOCC. Again, the title of this is called The Truth Concerning King James, and we're about an hour in.
When they put Easter in the book of Acts, the 12th chapter, that wasn't King James that did that. They took in King James Version, it was the word Passover. They switched it to Easter so that they can have the whole world worship the goddess of star. Because the real gods of the Jewish powers are who? Are the same mythological gods of ancient Rome. They're pagans. They're just hiding behind our name. They're hiding behind the word Jew. But they're pagans.
Can we deal with the Easter thing real quick here? So what he's saying is, in the original King James, Easter was not there. It said Passover. And he's saying now in the King James, the Jews, because they want you to worship pagan deities, and they're hiding behind our name. By that, he means Jews. They've inserted it into the KJV post King James, and that's one of the piecemeal changes for private enterprise purposes there.
You know, I was just looking at some older translation. This guy is so ignorant. What he doesn't know is that translations before the KJV had the word Easter, like Tyndale.
The KJV is heavily influenced by Tyndale's.
Exactly. And first, getting the word Easter, Pascha in the Greek, it has the term Pascha.
Okay, so the best translation
Probably
there
Passover.
is Passover. Just so everyone knows, that is a Passover. The best translation there is the Passover. By the way, which we would use as an argument against the King James only position. Because we would say, why is Easter in here? It should.
Very anachronistic.
That's anachronistic. That means something that is out of time, out of sync with chronological
or prochronistic,
focus.
because they didn't use it till hundreds of years later.
Yeah, so Easter should not have been the translation, yet the KJV has it. Now, he's saying the KJV is right, but that was inserted after King James. But you're saying, actually, there's English translations before that had Easter.
Well,
not that we're saying it's correct.
Yeah, it was in the 1611.
Right.
But translations like Tyndale's, prior to the KJV, like Matthew 26, verse 2, ye know that after 2 days shall be Easter, and Son of Man shall be delivered to be crucified.
Oh, you're reading that Old English. That's why he's reading it slow, because I can see it on the screen. It's that really Old English with different spelling. And also, so you're saying in the Tyndale and Matthew, they had Easter. Now, that's not in the KJV, though, but it is an English edition prior. So the point there is it defeats the argument that it was done by Jewish Khazar publishing muggles to make them worship false deities. It was already there. And Tyndale, of course, is someone who wanted to reform the Catholic Church as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And the Bishop's Bible of 1568 had John 11:55 had Easter, the term Easter. Also in 12:4. And remember, the KJV was not to deviate much from the Bishop's Bible. The Great Bible uses Easter multiple times.
If we were Bishop's Bible only, let's say we had this position back in the day, and we were Bishop's Bible only, we'd been like, look at this, the KJV changed Easter, they took out Easter from the Bible.
Absolutely. It's self-refuting.
But what were you saying about Luther?
So, in Luther's German Bible, he translated Mark 14:14 in the German as, I'm not going to read the German, but it has the term, the Greek term Pascha is translated as Osterlamm, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, or Easter Lamb.
Oh, so he did
just
it there.
as Tyndale did it.
Right.
And
so again, I need to reiterate, I'm sorry to interrupt, I just really want to make people understand, we are not saying that's what should have been done, we're saying that's anachronistic and it'd be better to translate it as Passover. We're just showing that it wasn't as if this was a post-KJV insertion that hadn't already existed. People had done this prior. It wasn't some financially motivated or religiously pagan or motivated change that happened.
Yeah, that's what they did. And the fact of the matter, when this guy says that was something done not in the 1611 and there's no translations, or he's implying no one else did it but pagans and all these things.
But it is in the KJV in Acts 12:4.
Yeah, in Acts 16:11, Acts 12:4. My question is, since he talks about research, what research is he looking at? I think he's just making it up as he goes along.
Yeah, I do. When we're going to watch a little bit more of this, I'm actually going to show you one of the books I know that he utilizes for some of his research in relationship to God's name, because he mentioned it in the James White debate. James White says, do you have any primary sources? And he says, Illuminati 2. And all of us were like, I didn't know there's an Illuminati 1. But I'll show the viewers that book. I'm going to go try to find it while we're watching this clip. So let's continue on with Rick Carr giving us the truth concerning King James.
They've done things like injected the word Jehovah or Jah or Yah because they follow the god of the Tetragrammaton, which is Baal or Baal-Li. They follow the god of the Tetragrammaton, which is the god of wickedness, which is Satan.
The god of the Tetragrammaton?
Yeah, let me slow that part down a little bit.
What in the world?
This came out in the debate, James White, and he got really spanked on this point, like pretty bad.
The god of the Tetragrammaton.
Yeah, he says it's a later insertion. It's based upon this book right here. I'll find it right here.
So they injected the word Jehovah and Jah and Yah in the book also. Now, I'm just giving you just a few examples of how we did the research, and we know what was changed. We know who changed it. So that you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. All right? But King James did not do this.
I'm going to show you where he drew some of this research, supposedly.
I'm eager to see where they got the... Just what struck me as very interesting is the god of the Tetragrammaton.
Right. What would that mean?
The god, so he's associating Yahweh, which is a Tetragrammaton, with Satan.
Yes.
Now, how does he come up with those conclusions?
Illuminati 2. Illuminati 2, written by Henry Macau. Again, he mentioned this in the James White debate. When me and my apologist friends heard this, Eddie, we were like, that sounds like the title of a bad horror movie, Illuminati 2. So let me read to you from page 127. Right here, this says, is Lucifer the god of Judaism? And I'll read you some of this, because this is really where he's getting it from.
Okay.
Here at the bottom, so he talks about, okay, right here. The Jewish name of God is represented by the Tetragrammaton. Can be pronounced Yahweh or Jehovah. The significance of God's name is repeatedly emphasized throughout the scriptures. All right, so far, I guess, so good. But now watch this. Page 128. When dissected in the Hebrew, the true definition of Jehovah, Yahovah, is revealed. Yah means God. Hova translates to eagerly coveting, falling, desire, ruin, calamity, iniquity, mischief, naughtiness, noisome, perverse, very wickedness. Jehovah is synonymous with Baal. Baali, from El, pronouns suffix my master, Baali, a symbolical name for Jehovah, Baali. The Jewish Encyclopedia. Adonai in Baal reveals, quote, the name El apparently is an equivalent for Yahweh. Since the days of Jeremiah, the Jews have forgotten their God's name and replaced it with the title El or Yahweh. The lying prophets, quote, which think to cause my people to forget my name as their fathers have forgotten my name for Baal. Jeremiah 23:27. Yahweh and Baal both represent the god of sexual perversion and wickedness, Satan. I mean, that's what he specifically said there. It's just satanic. However, Jews claim that this name, Yahweh, is not to be spoken aloud despite God's command to declare his name throughout the earth, Exodus 9:16. Why ignore this commandment? So that's where he's getting some of this from. Page 130 of the same book. Again, this is Illuminati 2, which he draws from in a number of his talks. Are you ready for this? I'm sorry. This is it's pretty. Some of this is pretty amazing. Okay, okay. Oh, look at this. He quotes Tex Mars here. The secret of the ancient Egyptians and their modern disciples, the Freemasons, is the art of demonology for gaining power, mainly through the devil, Jehovah. In the Royal Ark degree, the Freemason acknowledges that the devil, in the guise of Jehubbalim, in his sacred lord, the name Jehubbalim being a composite of Yahweh, Baal, and Osiris. He chants Jabulon, 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 Jehovah, Tex Mars Codex Magica. Albert Pike discussed the Kabbalistic Masonic significance of Jehovah in great length in Morals and Dogma. The name Yahweh was injected into the text of the Old Testament by the Pharisees and others who practiced Babylonian Satanism, the precursor of Kabbalism and Talmudism. For those who don't believe the Talmud is satanic, it proclaims that Christ is in hell, boiling in excrement and semen. An agreement was forged between the Jewish Masoretes and the Catholic Church, circa 1000 AD, to change the name of God in the Hebrew Old Testament to the pagan name Yahweh Jehovah via the Tetragrammaton. This explains Rosenthal's saying, quote, we are amazed by the Christian stupidity and receiving our teachings and propagating them as their own, end quote. In Henry Ford's words, the Christian cannot read his Bible except through Jewish spectacles and therefore reads it wrong. And this is the last part I'll read, because I think this is eye-opening to show the levels. This is not research. He's just ripping off from here.
Right.
The demonic disdain for humanity exhibited by the Luciferian Jew, Harold Rosenthal, typifies the end result of a lethal amalgamation, Jewish religious ritual combined with the worship of knowledge and self. The Jews as a people, by rejecting God and or accepting Jehovah, have been giving over to a reprobate mind, being filled with awe and righteousness. By the way, you see how anti-Semitic this book is. Of course, Mr. Rosenthal was a member of an elite, openly satanic minority among the Jewish people. Everyday Jews do not know that the God of their faith is in fact Satan, hiding behind a mystical name. It is of no consequence to Satan whether he is worshipped deliberately or through subtle lies and deception. Genesis 3. This is the last part. The wise Solomon asks, what is God's name and what is his son's name, if thou canst tell? Proverbs 34. God's name is Ahiah. Now, I bring that out because the Israelites have made up their own version of Hebrew called Lashawan Kodash. What it is the vowel pointers are eliminated, and they go to Paleo-Hebrew and then supply their own guesses at the vocalizations for the vowels, which results in a lot of A sounds, with a few exceptions. So that's why their names for Jesus, for example, is Yahawashai.
Right.
And a lot of its stuff is like that. Okay, this is a One West Hebrew Israelite group that Rakad leads called GOCC. They deviate. They use Ahaya, Okay, and so that's a difference, and it comes really from here. What is God's name, and what is His Son's name? If thou canst tell, God's name is Ahiah. Some translated Yehye, meaning I am. That is the name given to Moses along with the law. And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. And He said, Thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you. This is my memorial unto all generations. I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. And then it goes on to something else, but that's from there. So, comments on that? His research.
Well, yeah, the problem, the research is not consistent too. It seems he's researching these books, and he's not researching the actual Hebrew text.
Right.
Because we know that there was no altering the text. You know, you look at the manuscripts that we have in Hebrew. You look at and you look at the manuscripts of the Septuagint, translating the Tetragrammaton and Kyrios, which Jesus used, by the way.
Right.
They had no problem with it. They translated it as the name of the true God. When Jesus quoted from the Old Testament, when the apostles quoted from the Old Testament, they had no problem with the Kyrios. They had no problem with, for instance, the book of Hebrews. All the translation in the book of Hebrews, all the citations were from the Septuagint, all of them in Hebrews, in the book of Hebrews. And when they would translate Yahweh in all these citations, they would translate it as Kyrios, not Satanas or some diabolus. Yeah.
Right.
So they had no problem with it. But this so contradicts just the Hebrew. I think any middle school kid can get online and just look at the Hebrew texts and the Hebrew manuscripts that we have, and go to the very first parts of Hebrew, and they'll see the Tetragrammaton. And also, it's way after, we see it throughout the Old Testament. No other pagan, it's not like El or Elohim, where pagans use that name. It can refer to pagans, judges, mighty men, angels, right? Yahweh was to the true God alone. And to get the research by this, it's like me getting research from Goofus and Gallant to teach Christian ethics.
Right. So, what was the part in there he said about the Pharisees? I'm trying to go.
Pharisees, I think he said the Pharisees in Rome.
Well, there's a part where he says the Masoretes made a deal with Rome.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting. I mean, and so, you know, that's around 1000 AD. Like, the Roman Catholic Church wasn't even...
It wasn't even declared a supreme church until 1215.
Yeah, it wasn't even the way it is now at all.
It was a big church in Rome.
Yeah.
That's about it.
So they even it's like you're thinking of the modern day concept or a medieval concept of Rome back to 1000 AD.
He doesn't understand the Roman Catholic history and the differentiation between the Church of Rome and the Roman Catholic Church. And then it's interesting, when he talks about the name, he quoted Proverbs 30.
Yeah.
Talks about the name. Where he really is ignorant of is that Shem, or Onama in the Greek, the term name, rarely means somebody's name.
Right.
Rarely means somebody's name. He makes the same error as one as Pentecostals.
Really?
Rather, authority and power. So when David says...
Oh, like in the name of...
Yeah, when David says in 1 Samuel 17:45 to Goliath, you come to me with spear, javelin, and sword.
But I come to you
in the name
of the Lord.
He wasn't saying his name was Yahweh.
Right.
He wasn't saying his name was El. You know, he was saying, I come in the authority.
Yeah.
This guy...
Like authorization.
So when we're baptized, we do it under the power and authority of Christ. Thus, baptized in the name of Jesus.
Right.
Not some, JESUS.
So in the name of Jesus is not a formula.
No, it's not a formula.
It's more the authorization or the sphere of authority.
We're under his power and authority. Yeah. He's the founder of the Christian church. This guy has no clue what the word, how in the Semitic mind, what name meant.
Right. Yeah, and so I found it here. It says that the name Yahweh was injected into the text of the Old Testament by the Pharisees and others who practiced Babylonians. But see, the Pharisees are interacting with Jesus, and the Septuagint is prior to the Pharisaical movement, is it not?
Absolutely. So was the Hebrew text which we read.
Yeah, and if anybody, you might say the scribes. I mean, I don't know.
They would have used, yeah.
But see, like Jesus, when he interacted with the Pharisees with the biblical text, he never said something like, you err because you use a satanic name for God. He would say, you err because you don't know the power of the scriptures. Right. Or, you haven't seen where I am in the scriptures. You search them and think you have light, but you don't. Right. Things like that. He never said because you use this. Jesus, that would have been a big deal if the Pharisees are doing that. And then the Pharisees are not identical with the Masoretes, which is later on.
And the Pharisees
but the thing is, we have pre-Masoretic Old Testament manuscripts
both
in the Dead Sea Scrolls and in Greek as well. Yeah. So
it makes no sense. This guy's research is so flawed. It's just painful. And anyone who actually follows, they're painful. I mean, it's just amazing. But we know, biblically speaking, the darkened mind, there is a noetic effect of sin.
And so noetic effect of sin relates to the true biblical concept of total depravity. Total depravity does not mean we're corrupt or bad as we could be. Rather, it means that in every area of human existence, we have sin infiltrated into there. So sometimes it might be called radical corruption, so it infiltrates everything. Noetic effects of sin has to do with the way sin influences and dominates and destroys and distorts and contorts our mental faculties, and so we rationalize sin. We do things. Sin is not logical, basically.
We see things from a spiritual sense. We see things differently.
The darkened mind.
The unregenerate person will see things differently.
Right.
Then when we look at the text, when an unregenerate looks at a text, it's just going to be different.
Right. Well, I think that's good there. Let's maybe do one more video where we play a little bit more of this. I think this is good. We can't cover everything that Rakad did in this video where he's trying to give the people the truth about the King James, supposedly. But what we're trying to do is give a flavor to show that his sources are bad. And again, he mentions this as a primary source in the debate with Dr. James White, and maybe I'll end this video playing that clip. That's what I'll do. I'll play that clip so you can see that's where he gets it from. And then in the next video, which will be the last video in this trilogy, we'll just interact with a few more. And this is just going to show you that Rakah is an unreliable source, as are a lot of King James Version only advocates, and this is not anti-KJV on our part. It's just we want to separate
King
truth
James only,
from fiction.
Right?
Yes, and we want to say we're not against King James Version, but we are against the King James Version only position.
Right. Maybe say a couple words on from a positive aspect about our translations, how you can trust you can trust all recognized translations.
Right. All right. Well, I'll leave Eddie DALCOUR your information again in the description box. And anything else before we close out this video?
Do your research in an objective, proper way. And you won't be following guys like this.
And that doesn't just mean watching YouTube videos. That means go into primary sources for yourself. Because, for example, a primary source about this subject we're talking about today would have been the entire preface of the King James Version. That'd be an example of a primary resource relation. If a person would have read that in its entirety, they would have seen, oh, it's not saying exactly what Rakah said it did. Because as you read from it today, they actually say it's good to have multiple reliable translations.
Yeah.
That's an example of what we're talking about here. All right. See you next time.